Recording in progress.
So welcome to today's training, which is going to be on how we work on our identity and who we are. Because one of the biggest questions that I would say is incorrectly answered is this question. Because, and this will make more sense when we go into it, who I am is actually down to our attributes, our values, and multiple other things that we're going to go through. Whereas most people, if you say, who are you? They'll say, I'm John, I'm 34, I'm a dad, and I work in accounts. That's not really who you are. That's just a description of the human. And this will make more sense as we go on. And a key thing for these trainings, which I want you guys to take home, I had like a bit of... it was so weird the way it happened this weekend when I was doing some mindset stuff, because you guys know I'm doing the ultimate self-mastery with Peter Sage, and I'd specifically said to Nat last week, I'm like, she went, how's your stuff going with Peter? And I'm like, oh, do you know what, the first 11 weeks was amazing, and I'm just starting to feel like he's saying the same thing over and over again. It's just getting a bit boring. I'm getting a bit frustrated. I'm watching some of the trainings and I'm feeling a bit meh afterwards, because I'm like, we've been talking about this for the last however long. And then as we went into week 13, which is the first graduation week after competing the first 12 weeks, the first thing that he talks about, again, is repetition being the master of all skill. And you guys have heard me say that so many times. Like, you've probably heard me say this before, and you've probably heard me repeat it. And when they've actually researched, and you'll have heard people say phrases like, you can never get into a river in the same place twice because the river moves on, and you'll never read the same book twice because you're a completely different person every time you read the book. So, this builds into stuff that we were talking about last week, and this is why any form of, another great example of when we were talking about conditional love and unconditional love in terms of relationships, this is why they won't work if the love is conditional. Because if something is conditional, it means it's based on your needs. And you won't ever have the same needs, probably in the same year, sometimes not even in the same month. So if your relationship or anything was based on your needs, well, then when those needs change, then it's not going to work, because that will no longer fulfill your needs. Does that make sense? In any terms of relationships, in terms of career relationships and everything in between. So going back to repetition being the master of all skill, what he then goes on to say is that some people need to hear the same thing over 50 times before it sinks in. They need to watch the same training 50 times. They would need to read the same book 50 times in order for it to really hit home. So, a great thing for, I think, you guys to take away from here is if there are trainings that, let me turn that off, if there are trainings that have really hit home and really kind of, you guys all know those trainings, there's the ones where we listen to it and it's just like mind-blowing and you connect with it and you're like, yeah, that's so great, and it works. I would recommend listening to those again. But what I would recommend more is the ones that you don't really get, the ones that have felt a bit like you didn't really understand. Those are the ones that I would watch more and more and more, because there's a reason why you're not connecting with it, and it's probably because you're not listening deep enough, or we're not going far enough into it, or we're not focused, or maybe it's something we're not quite ready to take on board yet. So we're going to discuss this identity thing. So the reason why is any form of Craig put a great thing in the WhatsApp group to Kev this morning, which is something that is massive that I used to do. And this identity comes down to language as well. So again, people will say these things, right? Oh, how are you getting on with the smoking? Oh, I'm not too bad. I'm trying to give up. Never ever going to happen. It's the same thing as that I want and I will, versus I'm a non-smoker. Because when we say I'm trying to do something, or I'm doing, this is a great one, I'm going to try this and I'm going to see how it goes. We're opening up a route out, because it's non-committal to start with. And it's so easy to do. And we've talked about this watching our language all the time. And this is what we're going to come on to today. And I write this down every single day. I write down my I ams. In fact, just to prove it to you, it's there. I am. So identity plays the biggest part in lasting change, whether it's fat loss, mental health, relationships, or anything in between. And it's your identity is the definitive factor in how you engage with life, how you engage with other people, how you engage with challenge, and pretty much down to every decision that you make. So like every time I hear someone go, I'm a binge eater, I go, oh no, I'm a self-sabotager. It literally like grates through me, because anything you say I am depressed, I am anxious, I'm not good enough. You are literally putting a rung on that thought in your head and building it up until it becomes your identity. I've talked about this a lot I've got some pretty hard hitting stuff on depression and anxiety that's going to come out, and it's going to trigger a lot of people, but I'm going to release it anyway, because again, this is what people do with mental health problems. I am fat. Everyone in our family's always been big. I can't control what I eat. I am a heavy drinker. Over and over and over again. So think about the two same things, right? Think about these two things. I am a runner. I am an athlete. I am a heavy drinker who loves food. I am depressed and anxious. I am a born winner who will work until I achieve everything that I want. Great ones. I am a vegan. I'm going to come on to this. Sorry, vegans, not meant to offend you. I am a gamer. Or I am an emotionally connected, focus-driven man who values honesty and integrity, and I'm committed to helping other people and being a role model for my family. All these things will become true, but it's the same as the tracking food for 50 days. It's the same as going to the gym for 50 days. It's the same as doing these for 50 days. Like the amount of people who think, I can just do this for 1 or 2 days, or I can just go to the gym for a week and we're going to see instant change, and we don't. And the reason why is because we haven't changed our identity. We've very often taken action towards something because we're in a position of pain. I am fat, I'm depressed, I am anxious. And then we do mindset for a week, or we track food for a week, and we don't get this instant payoff, so we give up. So again, people will say, like, this is, like, I'm not going to say who this is, but you know, the person watching will know who it is. This is what one person actually said to me. Are you going to stay on and join the full team? No, there's no point in me wasting my time or your time. I'm a fat, unmotivated fucking loser who always quits and doesn't deserve a place in your team, Lee. Wow. That is what that person thinks about themselves. And this is the first rule of personal development in life, is you will never ever rise above your opinion of yourself. And this comes down to writing this new identity, which we're going to come on to with some tasks of how to do it. And this last bit will blow your mind. The same person could say, I never give up, I'm a born survivor, and I'm going to stay with you, Lee, and I'm going to work until I get everything that I want. Just 30 days of those two different statements is completely life-changing. But we hear people say this all the time. I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I'm a loser, I always give up. Probably one of the biggest ones I hear is, I'm just lazy. I'm just lazy and unmotivated. Guess what? You tell yourself you're lazy and unmotivated for 30 days, you will be. Caroline Jeffrey, Caroline's not going to be watching this, but Caroline, I told you to do this nearly 2 years ago and you still haven't done it. So if you're watching, I would ask yourself why. I'm not for any percentage of a second saying that fibromyalgia, I still can't pronounce it properly, isn't a horrific condition. It is. But your WhatsApp profile still says Fibro Warrior. So every day you're reaffirming yourself of what you have and the thing that holds you back. And I said to you, get that off your WhatsApp. Just change it, change something else. You don't want to be reminding yourself of something you have that holds you back every day. It's not helpful. So, I am a victim. Bad things always happen to me. People do this, and so often it's through subconscious programming as well. But the best thing about this is, if you've had this happen and it's this identity of, I am this person, I do this thing, I am a quitter, I am an overeater, I'm unmotivated, I'm a loser, any of these things, you can change it. You're completely in control of it. And every single person today, whether it's in regards to mental health, fat loss, fitness, your career, or everything in between, you can reinvent your identity. And we're going to come on to practical steps of how to do it, because your identity is probably the most powerful force in human character. And your identity is aligning yourself with your sense of who you are once you've understood it, but most of all, making sure your actions demonstrate that, because you will always do what you value. So, honest answer. How many of you would go out today and commit a crime? Nobody. Good, because you're not a criminal. What about criminals? Do you think criminals have any issue with going out and robbing someone today? Do you think they lose sleep at night? Do you think they suffer with it? Do you think they keep, oh God, can't do that, mate, I'm a criminal? No, they don't give a fuck, because they're a criminal and it's part of their identity. Same goes for all the other things. I know that's a bit of an absurd example, but I am an athlete. Imagine 90 days of getting up every day and telling yourself I'm an athlete. Or you can get up every day and tell yourself you're a fat, lazy, heavy drinker who loves food. And the reality is, millions of people tell themselves that every day. But anything that you put after the words I am will become a driving force in your behavior. So just have an awareness of that. Because again, whether it's the person with, some people, somebody else put something about chronic illnesses. I can't remember what it is, but we're basically reaffirming the fact that we have this thing that holds us back, and we want to remind ourselves of it every day. And that is the most toxic trait you will ever develop. I have this thing that holds me back, and I want to remind myself of it every day. So, imagine, even if the still person has the two things, right? I could put on my Facebook, Lee Freeman, ADHD and bipolar warrior. Or I could put Lee Freeman, athlete, father and entrepreneur. Whichever one I keep talking about, I'm going to get more feelings of. I'm going to reaffirm. It's going to become my identity. And this is part of the problem with depression and anxiety. Especially, even all those, like, I got the full bag, didn't I? Tick, 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 every single one. Anxiety, depression, bipolar, ADHD, PTSD, personality disorder. So if we take all of these things, right, and we allow them to become our identity, what was one of the single most biggest human needs? Love and connection. What's another word for love, connection and significance? Attention, sympathy, empathy, compassion, love. And this is the problem with being diagnosed with mental health issues. Very often, it then gets you extra love, extra attention, extra significance, extra sympathy, extra empathy, and everything in between. And you get addicted to that as much as you were to any previous issues. So what I want you to write down, this was a bit of an epiphany for me that I decided. All labels are limitations. That is a key. Any label you give yourself is a limitation, especially if it's a negative one. Because labels will control our behavior. I can't do that, I'm too overweight. There's no point me signing up to that. I always quit. Yeah, where do I sign up? I'm going to do this. Exactly what Craig said again this morning. It's the language change. But the reality is, not only do labels control our behaviour and set our expectations, the hardest thing is that many of the labels, we didn't even choose them. We were given them. Maybe as a child, by your parent, maybe by a doctor, or even by any other adult, and then they're never taken off. This is why millions of people play the victim label. And some of you do still. I do, often still, and I have to snap myself out of it. But what we have to realise is no labels are super glued on. They've all been created. They've all been created. You have to detach yourself from them. So this is a mental task to do. Let me just turn this brightness up a little bit. It's better. And it's actually harder than you think. Much, much, much harder. But without your name, being a parent, or your job title, who are you? It's actually quite hard to do. Whose head is now going, oh, actually, who am I? You can't use your name, you can't use your age, you can't use your job title, and you can't use being a parent. Who am I? Now, the very first step in recreating this identity, and again, this blew my head a little bit, and I didn't quite get it to start with, because I'm like, what? First thing you need to get comfortable with is, I am full stop. I am full stop. Just I am. I am. I am full stop. Say it over and over and over again. But most people cannot get comfortable with saying I am full stop. They have to put a negative after it. They are much more comfortable saying, oh, I'm fat, oh, I'm overweight, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm stressed, I'm worried, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not tall enough, I'm not clever enough, I'm a technophobe, I get ill all the time, and it's almost always negative. People are so comfortable saying I am followed by a negative. And what's worse is they then gravitate towards people who go, yeah, me too, I'm the same. Remember my story about the two ladies on the rower that did that for a full hour? One said a negative, the other one went, yeah, I'm the same, and vice versa, on and on and on. So one, you reaffirm it in your own head, you're then gravitating towards other people that reaffirm it as well. So, I am full stop is the first stage to then creating a new identity, because you are just the way you are now. And once you can just say, I am full stop, you're then free of those other things to then start creating this new identity. Does that make sense? So we don't need to get rid of those other things. We just need to stop saying them. I am full stop. And then we create a new label that can serve you. Now, these 4 things, right? That's why I'm smiling. When I did this exercise, I'm like, fucking hell, this is like crazy. So what I want you to do is do this live now. If you've got a pen and paper, do as many as you can in this time, but it is going to be a bit of a fast training. And then I want you to read back and do it, and make sure you find at least 10 for each category. Now, what you will have to do is there will be resistance to this. Your mind won't want to do it because it prefers to stay where it is because it's comfortable there and it's staying stuck. And also be very cautious on making sure that we're putting the right, you could do this, you could create 4 columns or 4 pages, or I've just labeled mine 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. But there's 4 sections that we're going to go through. And then all of a sudden you're right, oh my God, I couldn't think of any I ams that weren't my name, my job, my status as a parent and anything in between, that weren't negative. That's where most people live and where they can go to. So the first one type them in the chat box on Zoom if you're watching live as well. Attributes. So what are your attributes? And if you don't know what they are and you don't have any, I feel like this chair needs to come up, then that's great. Better. If you don't know what you are and you don't have any, then great, because you're starting from a blank page. So here are the words that I wrote down. And remember, these are only positive. We're creating a new identity here. So I want you to have at least 10. So an attribute is a personality attribute. So the list I've written down is, you can pick out ones that you like and pluck them out. You can maybe pick out ones that you just like to have and you want to work on, or you can pick out ones you already have, but we can't use negative ones. So inspiring is an attribute. Compassionate, courageous, forgiving, positive, energetic, confident, adventurous, loving, healthy, gritty, resilient, hardworking, and knowledgeable. Those are all attributes. So again, dig deep and create a list of ones you have and ones you'd like to have, okay? Which ones do you want to be known for? If people were describing you at your funeral, bit fucking morbid, don't know where that came from, but if people were just, let's say it was like, what are them things called? Eulogy. Someone was reading out your eulogy, I probably not pronounced that right, or describing you. Here I am at Craig Knowles' funeral, and Craig was a man who, you know, that crap that happens at funerals. And anyway, they're basically describing the person and who they were. What are the things that you would like to hear other people saying about you? What are the things that you'd like to be remembered for? So again, yes, kind, strong, thoughtful, resilient, accepting, curious, empathetic, healthy, consistent, dedicated, caring, loving, interesting, driven, hardworking, knowledgeable, kind, confident, and bubbly. How good is this sounding already, right? This is just one section. So keep going, because we're creating this and watching this on replay. Make sure you do it and drop a comment as well. So I want at least 10 on that one. And then number 2, so number 1 is attributes. Number 2 is roles, which builds into this as well. Not tuna rolls, Lindsay, before you get excited. So roles that we play. So this does build into the same thing. So a role, the first one I wrote down was hero, because that's the dream role for me. Hero, dad, coach, teacher, leader, business owner, warrior, achiever, friend, mentor, DJ, doorman, club owner, club promoter, rugby player, athlete, carer, entrepreneur, runner, student. That was like my brain dump on them. So my head went to some old roles that I'm attached to still, that I don't want to be part of anymore, and kind of the new ones. But you can also see how the roles that you develop will also connect to your behavior and who you are. So the hero, the dad, the coach, and the teacher is not going to be the same as the DJ, the doorman, and the club owner, is he? Completely different roles. So again, we're having to dig a little bit deeper here, and this will be really uncomfortable because it might pop up some things that you don't want to hear or you'd kind of forgotten about. It definitely did for me. But when we can start to really write down these roles that we play, right, now let's go back to the first stage again. Let's pick out the roles that we have and the roles that we'd like to have and the roles that we'd like to work on. So you will get a big shift from this if you can do it properly. Again, if you're feeling now very resistant, I don't really like this, good. Get it written down. Yes, these are great ones coming through. Luke's come through as well. Kind, caring, loving, inspired, adventurous, disciplined, confident, courageous. Just saying it sounds fucking exciting, doesn't it? Craig, dad, husband, son, brother, role model, leader, warrior, athlete, mediator, joker, nurse, mother, not Craig. On to Lindsay's. Nurse, mother, teacher, protector. How good does that one sound? I've not written that down. I'm adding that to mine. Protector. Disciplinarian, athlete, runner. Look at what we're creating now, okay? Then, this is building back into the last trainings, and I am going to do a recap of all the stuff on human needs. I need to shrink it down. I've got about 15 pages on it at the moment. It'll take about 2 hours. But then going through this then builds back into that. So, phase 1, we've got attributes. Phase 2, we've got roles. Phase 3 and 4, we've got action, but 2 different phases, which builds into the last 2 human needs, which were growth and contribution. So, action phrase self is the growth phase. This will make sense in a minute. And then action phase others is the contribution phase. So we've got 2 phases of action. One, which actions are we doing to grow ourselves? And which actions are we doing to contribute to the world? And everything in between. So the action phrase self, growth. So for my own growth is leading by example, taking risks, embracing discomfort, embracing uncertainty. It's all starting to sound familiar now. Embracing challenge, doing the work, following your passion, focusing, driven, grateful, and smiling. Happy, positive. These are the action phrases for myself. No, Craig, go for it. It's great. So, action phase others. So what identity, the first one is what identity that I'm adapting for myself, for my own personal growth. And this fourth one is also actions, but what identity I'm adapting to contribute to others. It is a little bit complicated, this. So my contribution phrases, this is how different they are. Yeah, I'm just going to put a wig on Luke. Inspires, educates, supports, listens, impacts, empowers, loves, motivates, ignites potential, and empathizes. Those are my identity phrases for contributing to others. The first set are for contributing to myself. One is for growth, one is for contribution. So again, go through on those and look into what resonates with you, what hits home. There's no right or wrong way to do this. This is the bit when it blew my head. So once we've got this list and we want 10 for each, we've kind of broken the identity down into 4 separate sectors. I told you need to go back on this. And we've kind of crafted a notebook where we can create a new identity from. So again, I think a really good way to do this is 4 pieces of paper and just brainstorm it out on each piece of paper. That's how I've done it on my iPad. So how different does all of this feel already compared to some of the old stories you might have told yourself? Some of the things other people may have led you to believe. Some of the things that may have been subconsciously programmed and ingrained in you from a very young age. How different does it start to feel? Now, this is when it gets really, really interesting. So the best thing about this is we can create as many of these as we want. We can remind myself of them daily, and then they can become our morning I ams that we write down every day, and our morning I ams before we go to bed, because it's reminding ourselves for each. So once you've got them all written down, go through and create I ams and identities by taking one thing from each box. I am an inspiring teacher who leads by example and inspires others. That's just one. One from each box. I am a compassionate coach who does the work and ignites potential in others. That's number 2. And you can go through and every single one of them is different just by us plucking out these different attributes and starting to create not just who we are, but who we want to be. And you can imagine some people, let's look at a negative one. So what's an attribute? I am negative. What's a role? I actually find this harder, which is a good thing. What would be a role of a... Can't even fucking do it, can't think. What would be a negative role? Well, they're really opposites, really, aren't they? Things. Actually, this is actually a good thing. I'm finding this really hard to try and do it in reverse because it's just not natural. So again, you could imagine if it was 4 from the separate that we're all, I am attributes. I am pessimist. Yeah, positive. This is a good thing though, isn't it? I'm actually trying to think. So what would be a negative attribute? I am a moaner, blamer, complainer, negative role, quitter, overeater, heavy drinker. It's actually quite a good thing, this, because I'm realising it's all things that I'm not, which finds it very hard. And other attributes would be a liar. Roles would be a criminal, loser, time waster. I'm an uninspiring, negative role model who never finishes anything but blames everyone and anything else. Yeah. See how it's the same task. Different attributes. But like I said, when I went back to the start, what we need to understand is these things that we've picked up and developed and reaffirmed, they are not who we are. They are just labels, and all labels are limitations. So we can now get to work. This has actually been, it's in one of our Middleton's book, this, and if you guys have read it, I think it's in Zero Negativity. He actually did it. He did it in a room full of people. This training, the learning that I've done came from Peter. But I think Ant did it on his live tour. And he just asked everyone in the room, and everyone went straight to, who are you? I'm John, I'm 45, I'm a father of 3, and I work in construction. That's not an identity. That's just your age, your name, where you work, and whether you've got children or not. But that's what everyone adapts as their identity, and this is why it becomes a limitation. So what I really want you guys to do is, this isn't a do this once and it will be fixed kind of task. That's why it's in the planner. But we need to remind ourselves of not just who we are, and if you need to remind yourself of who you are negative to let go of them, that's fine. Go back and watch the training on the power of letting go. But start to create who you want to be. Start to be the creator of your own life. Start to be the creator of your own personality, your own personal reality, your own identity. Because whatever you've either led yourself to believe up until this point, or been led to believe and subconsciously programmed by others, isn't true. And we are completely in charge of this, but it starts from the great way to let go of the others is I am full stop. And then we can start to build all the new attributes, which is a quality. Attributes is a quality that you'd like to have or you already have. Roles, we're looking at what roles we play in life. But again, we're going to have to dig a little bit deeper. You saw how hard it was there. And then again, the 2 final phases, just to reaffirm, is the self-action phase, which is your self-growth, and the contribution action phase, which is helping others to grow, because all life is about growth and contribution. So go through again the training, pluck out which ones resonate with you, create your own list, keep it to hand, and then when we're going back through, pick I am and keep picking one from each box until you've got this whole list of identities. And I guarantee you, this is one of the key shifts in lasting change. In fact, that was what I said. What did I say at the very beginning? Your identity will play the biggest part in your lasting change. And the best thing about that is we get to create it. We get to recreate it every day. So go deep, take your time. This isn't a rush task. Get them all written out, nicely kept on an iPad somewhere. And I guarantee you the change you would see in yourself in 30 days from telling yourself that you're let's pick another one out, that you're an energetic, friend who follows your passion and supports others. Imagine just 30 days of saying that every morning when you get up and every morning before you go to bed, and then having a list of 10 more. You will be well on your way to creating a new identity and understanding that you're in charge of doing this, and that everything that you do, almost all of your actions, how you behave and everything in between, and the key to creating lasting change will very much come down to the identity that you've either created for yourself, or you can stick with the one that others have created for you, or that you created because it wasn't true. Guys, I love you all. I hope that's been helpful today. Have an unbreakable day. Do the deep work. Get this done, because as with anything, if we put the work in, we'll get the reward. Take care.